Okay, so welcome everyone to our API version 2 and Webhooks webinar. So today we're going to be covering all things API, from the basics of what API feeds are, how integrations can save your team time, money, and deliver a better customer service, right through to the detail about our new version 2 feeds and webhooks, which are due to be available any time now.
Yeah, so it's a big topic. We've condensed it into about a 25-minute webinar. So if there's anything that we don't cover today that you're interested in, please make use of the Q&A box. That's going to be open throughout the session. We're not developers, a little caveat, but we'll do our best to answer everything that we possibly can. Anything that we can't answer today, we'll take away and feedback to you afterwards. So please do use the Q&A box and pop whatever questions you've got in there. And as usual, today's session is being recorded. You can share it with your teams or watch it back afterwards.
Yes. Okay, so before we get into it, quick introduction to us as usual. So I'm Jenna, accessplanit's Customer Education Manager.
And I'm Jack, one of the accessplanit Customer Success Managers. So we'll have a look at the agenda for today.
Yes. Okay, so we're going to start today with just a quick overview of the benefits of integrating systems. So just why would you consider an integration to begin? Then we'll spend a few minutes just covering the basics of what API feeds are, just for anyone who hasn't encountered them before. Then we're going to have a look at accessplanit's API feed options. So we're going to focus on the V2 feeds, obviously, because that's the new thing. But we're going to look at both options so you've got a clear picture of what's available. And then finally, we'll talk about webhooks. So these are new alongside the version 2 feeds. So Jack, why would we integrate systems together?
So running a training company, you often are juggling multiple systems. So maybe training software, your accounting tools, CRMs, website, and potentially loads more. People's tech stacks are just getting bigger and bigger. So integrating software together, it's like connecting the dots between those different tools. It's going to enable you to share data automatically, creating a seamless flow of information. It could be syncing invoices, tracking payments, managing your customer data, or even promoting your courses. Integrations just unlock the efficiencies for your business and simplify your operations. Jenna's going to go over in a bit more detail now why you like to integrate.
Yeah, thank you. Cool. So we're going to cover some of the main reasons or benefits that we've seen people integrate systems over the years. So the first one is about sharing information from one application to another for team access. So this is all about your integration, solving problems of really licenses and people having to log into every application you have. So for example, if you're working with a CRM, HubSpot, or something like that, where you've got a bunch of admins that have access to it, and then you've got other admins who have access to your accessplanit platform. An integration will mean that you can kind of share that key data between the two so that not everyone needs to have licenses for everything. The second one is similar. This is about sharing information from one app to another, but this time it's about processes. So it's about streamlining those processes, working more efficiently. So for example, if you want to advertise your courses on a website, an integration of like courses, you wouldn't want to, but an integration would mean that you wouldn't have to manually remove courses from your website when they become fully booked or cancelled, or add new courses. An integration would do that for you, supporting the process a lot more efficiently than human intervention would. Next one is centralizing data for specific activities. The best example of this is accounting or finance. We see that a lot, where training potentially isn't the only revenue driver in the organization. There could be other departments with their own income streams, and to get everything aligned and kind of managed centrally for the finance team, all invoices and payments are integrated into that central finance system, whether that's Sage, Aggresso, Xero, rather than invoicing from all these disparate systems. This one's similar to the last one. So the ability to analyze data from multiple systems. So again, this is about centralizing data, but this time it's more about reporting. So we're talking about integrating multiple systems into Power BI or another business analytics tool so that you can analyze it all from one place. And then finally, avoid the time-wasting activity of rekeying information into another system. Rekeying takes time, it's boring, there's a high chance of human error. So having an integration do that for you just brings that peace of mind. So if any of those sound good to you, an integration might be on the cards.
Yeah, so let's look specifically at the API feeds. There's lots of different ways that you can integrate two systems together to share the data across them. A few that we've worked with in the past include automated data, imports and exports, using XML feeds.
Yeah, I've had people read directly from the database as well.
And of course, the last one, API feeds. So API feeds are very quickly becoming the most popular way of integrating between platforms. This is because they're a powerful method for creating responsive, efficient, and finally secure integrations between two systems. Unlike imports and exports, they facilitate automated access to the most current data. It means that your applications and systems are always working with the most up-to-date and most relevant information. Additionally, API feeds, they provide structured and predictable data. So it means developers can rely on a consistent format when they're building those integrations. Consistency is going to reduce bugs and also makes debugging issues simpler when they arise. And on top of that, unlike many other types of feed, APIs are built to scale. They can handle large amounts of data and requests. It means that as your business grows, they can grow alongside you without much additional work.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can use them for all sorts. So we've covered a few of these already, but you can use API feeds to integrate with CRM. I was looking at these examples on screen. Of course, the accounting and finance suite, websites, webinar software, surveying tools. If you wanted to build like a My Account page on your website and have courses and history pulled into there, you could do that. Now, an integration with any of these can be, I would say, a huge help to businesses. In the long term, you can save thousands of pounds, thousands of hours, get rid of that boring, repetitive work, and ultimately provide a better service to your customers. However, what we would say is that an effective integration using API feeds does take planning. This is not something you can just cross your fingers and hope just works. So for any of you that are just brand new to the concept of APIs and you think that your business or team, would benefit from an integration, we've put together like a list of steps for the planning and scoping of it. So first thing you need to do is identify your goals. So this is about defining the problem. What tasks or processes are taking that time, or there's a lot of human error involved? Is it syncing invoices or sharing customer data? Like where is the pain? And then based on those, set clear outcomes. So you might want it to be that as soon as an invoice is created in your accessplanit platform, it is pushed over to Sage. As soon as a course meets certain criteria, it is pushed through to your website, or it could be the other direction. So identify your goals there. The next step is then assessing kind of the compatibility between those two systems. So if both systems offer APIs, you're off to a great start. That's good. There might be existing integrations. So have a look at the software providers, both of them, websites, or consult their teams, come talk to us, because we might already have experience working with that connecting software, and we can share that experience with you. The next bit is consulting an expert. So if this only really applies if you're not experienced in scoping integrations or you don't have someone available in your team, in your business who is. So first of all, I'd say, like the last step, I'd reach out to your software providers first as a first step, because we might be able to help guide you into the steps you'd want to take. But as you progress, really for more long-term support, you might want to hire a consultant or developer. Engage with someone who has done this a lot. They specialize in integrations. They'll assess the feasibility for you and then advise on the best approach. Once you've got that, it's then about getting into the detail. So defining the integration requirements. So you'd work with that consultant or work with your team, work with a range of people to figure out what data are we going to sync, what customer data, what financial data, course data, what are we sharing between these platforms? What of that data is mandatory? How often are we going to sync? Is it going to be real time, or is it a daily sync? That kind of thing. We recommend keeping it simple initially. So have an idea of that long-term vision of where you want to be at the end, but iterate. Start on the essential functionality. And then finally, get quotes. So always get more than one. If you're not working with your own in-house development team, of course, you'll want to get a range, quotes from a range of developers. In addition to that development fee, there's a couple of other things that we recommend finding out. So find out if they're going to charge you any ongoing fees for maintenance or hosting. And secondly, find out if it's a flat development fee, for the project, or if it's a fee per day, per hour, because that could influence, the route, the supplier you choose.
Cool. So we're going to look at the options that we've got within accessplanit now. So there's two versions of the feeds that we've got available for you. Version 1 and version 2.
Yeah, that's easy.
So version 1 was introduced in 2019, and these feeds have access to the core modules. So these are going to be things such as course data, user account data, and financial data. So this makes it ideal for many standard integrations. Version 2 that we're focusing on mainly today is currently available in alpha at the moment, and hopefully should be due to be available very soon in live platforms. The V2 feeds is offering more extensive coverage of pretty much your entire platform. So it enables integrations with a much wider range of applications and also much more complex integrations too. This also extends the field access. In V1, you can work with a set of predefined fields for each endpoint. But in V2, you can access all fields that you can see in the platform. So generally, the rule is if you can see it in a data grid, it's probably going to pull through to your feed.
Yeah, way more comprehensive. So on top of that, and this is where it gets a little bit more technical, in addition to the significantly wider data access that Jack's just talked about, version 2 also benefits from these features. So the first one is field selection. So while the version 1 feeds return every field that they've got available every time, within version 2, you get to pick what information is going to be returned in your responses. So that optimizes your requests, which is great. Obviously, that improves performance, but it also ensures that your connecting application only receives the relevant information. You're having to sift through it at the other side. Second thing is advanced filtering. So version 1 feeds have support for applying multiple filters, lovely. But version 2 feeds support or filters, which is a horrible sentence to say. So it supports and filters and or filters, so this or that. Hopefully that makes sense. So you can filter and access information needed for your integration a lot more thoroughly. Then the custom fields. So version 2 feeds have access to every custom field you've created in your accessplanit platform. So this means that all the unique kind of data points that you've created that you use for your processes are available to make those integrations really, really relevant. Next is sorting. So there is a new order by feature that's available in the V2 feeds. That means you can organize the return, the responses that get returned and present your data in the most relevant way for the integration. So you might want courses returned with the most recent one at the top, or users returned with the most recently created one at the top, or in alphabetical order. You can decide. Then when your login lets you delete data in the platform, so will your version 2 access. So this is really good for managing data integrity, really. The version 1 feeds don't support that at all. You can keep your data up to date, manage that incorrect, obsolete information. And then finally, record count. So your version 2 feeds can include a count of the number of records that meet your integration criteria. So this means that integrations can assess volumes of data, they can understand how many pages of data there are, and then also, as part of that, really optimize performance in those data processing tasks. So that's everything that's available in version 2 versus version 1. So we'll move on to webhooks now.
So Webhooks is also going to be available alongside the version 2 feeds. So we'll start with a quick overview of what webhooks are. So webhooks are a way for two applications or systems to communicate and exchange information in real time without needing to rely on constant requests for updates. So they're like digital messages that let one system tell another when something important is happening. So instead of waiting for the second system to check for updates, the first system sends a message as soon as that event occurs. This is then going to allow the two systems to stay in sync and work together automatically, ultimately saving you so much time and effort. Webhooks are triggered by specific events that you can define. So webhooks could be push updates like course registrations, payment completions to other systems as soon as they happen in your accessplanit platform.
Yes. Hope you like our GIF there as well.
So webhooks, they provide real-time updates. So the biggest benefit of using webhooks is that data can move immediately from your accessplanit platform when an event happens, so you don't need to wait for those regular imports or the manual syncs anymore. For example, when a course has been scheduled, a webhook can be triggered to share this information with another system. So instead of having to wait for an export file to be created or a period of sync to happen, it will happen instantly. It's also a simplified integration. While technical and integration knowledge is required for this, webhooks can connect systems without the need for a real extensive knowledge of coding. It means there's a lot more flexibility for the integrations without really needing an in-depth technical know-how, but also reduces the potential for human error as well. Data accuracy is also so important, and data is moving in real time. It means that your integration is always working with that most up-to-date information. So your systems are all up to date, they're all accurate, and it's all moved over in a timely manner. And then finally is custom notifications. So webhooks can send specific information like course details, payment amounts to the receiving system, and that receiving system knows exactly what's going on.
Yes. So to help put this into practice, for anyone who's not kind of worked with webhooks before, we're just going to walk through an example webhook that's been created in an accessplanit platform. So this one is as part of the Salesforce integrations. We'll just have a little zoom in on that. So first of all, every webhook has a label. So this is for you guys internally. You get to choose what it's called. In this case, we've called it new account, send to Salesforce. So that's descriptive. Then we've got the description to go alongside it. It's not mandatory, but would recommend including something that's informative. It's useful for you in the future when you're trying to remember what each of your webhooks does, and also for the rest of your team as well. And then, like many things in your accessplanit platform, you can choose whether the webhook is active or inactive just using the checkbox. As soon as it's inactive, it's going to stop triggering. Then if we just zoom down a little bit, there we go. So then we've got our trigger options. So the trigger options are essentially where you'll say what's going to make this webhook fire. So the first thing is the module. Where are we getting our information from? In this case, we're getting it from the account module, or as it's known in the API feeds, it's labeled as the company module. That's why we've included both there so that everyone knows what we're talking about. So this is a webhook about accounts. And then what about accounts? So the trigger option, so it's going to trigger when an account is created. There are other options in there. There's an update option, there's a delete option, and there's create and update as well. So we could trigger it when an account is deleted or when an account is updated. In this case, we're triggering this webhook when a new account is created. Conditions are your filters. This is where you can say, I only want to trigger this webhook when certain criteria has been met. So in this case, we're only going to send the webhook when this new account is not in the industry training provider and it has the status of enabled. If any of you have built workflows before or data grid filters, dashboard, gadgets, then you'll be very familiar with how this works. And then once you define your trigger, so we're going to send this webhook when a new account is created that's not in the industry training provider and it has the status enabled. Lovely. Where's the webhook going? That's the endpoint settings at the bottom. So you'll define the URL. That's where your data is going to be sent, where the webhook's going. What method is it going to be attached to? Is it a post? Post is typically used for creating. Could be a put, could be a patch. And then following that method, you then choose what information about the account or about whatever it is we're triggering the webhook for, what information are we going to send across to that URL? So in this case, we've said selected fields, and then underneath that, we have specifically chosen set fields, set information that we want to send to Salesforce when a new account is created. That could be things like name of the account, contact phone number, main contact name, that kind of thing. But you can there is an option there to just include the ID or just include the ID and the fields that have been set or changed. There's a lot of scope for change in there. And then final thing on webhooks from us is just talking to you about instances. So this is quite similar to workflow. So each time the rules of your webhooks are met, a new instance will be created. So that means you can track those successful instances, and also like the top one that you can see in this example, you can see when it's failed. So this means you can troubleshoot to see why it's failed, that maybe there was some missing data, maybe you have an incorrect webhook URL, or you've had authentication issues or whatever. It's really good for testing, troubleshooting while you figure out your webhook design. So a few examples.
Yes, so these are some examples of webhooks for a bit of inspiration. So the first one is the finance integration. So when a new invoice is generated in accessplanit, that's going to send those invoice details to your finance software.
Yes.
Another finance one, when a payment's logged, we're going to send those payments through, again, to usually a finance platform. Yeah. Website integration. So this is a really good one if you want to do a really nice integration with your website to show your courses. So when a course is cancelled on accessplanit, send an update request through to your website. Something for HR. So when a user award is added or changed in accessplanit, we're going to send the details of that through to our HR platform. And another HR one is, so when we create a user in accessplanit, we're going to send those user data details over to our HR platform as well.
Nice. Okay, so that's it for us for today. So as a quick recap, we have covered why to integrate. So we were talking things like sharing information between two applications to lower the number of licenses you need across various different apps, and centralizing your data for invoicing or reporting in Power BI. Overall, just reducing that rekeying of information. Then we talked about what API feeds are, so why they're a popular reason to integrate, and then kind of the steps to take if you're scoping an integration for the first time. Then we talked through the API feed options, the V1 and the V2 that we have available at accessplanit. And then finally, it wrapped up with the webhooks. So what webhooks are, some example use cases, and then we had a look at that example webhook that sends the account data through to Salesforce when a new account is created. So, oh yeah, I forgot about this bit.
So if you would like access to the V2 feeds, we are currently putting these onto a test platform as they are in the alpha stage. So they are still going through final testing on our side, but we're giving access to those who would like access before it's fully released on platforms. If you are interested in getting this set up on a test site, if you just drop us an email, it's customersuccess@accessplanit.com. One of the team will pick that up and we'll look at getting that set up for you. All the platform and all the information in test platforms are anonymized, so it won't be your real data, or it's real data, just anonymized. But you'll be able to start seeing what it can do, what the feeds can do, and you can also build in the test platform, and then move it over to your live site. So you can start that development early as well if you're ready to do so. So yeah, just drop us an email if you're interested, and one of the team will get that set up for you.
Okay, so over to you. Do you have any questions for us? I did see a few come in.
Okay, let's have a look. Oh, that's not the one I want.
That's not it.
This is okay. Let's have a look.
Oh, okay. Very good question. So Faye has asked us any more detail on when the API version 2 will be in live platforms, please. Very soon. When is that? This is the golden question. Obviously, we've had this from so many people. We can't go much further than say very soon now. What we can say is that we're in the release testing cycle, which is the very last phase for us before we deploy our releases out. So it is quite a long phase. It's a good few weeks, but we're into that now. So at the moment, we're still giving a loose Q1, but we do expect it to be super soon. So sorry, that's not that intangible, but that's as much as we can say for now. Things happen with software.
Obviously, as soon as it's released, it will be in all the normal channels. And if you have got access to the test platform with feeds early, we'll also be letting everyone who has that access know as well. So you can move on to live if requested. We've got another question from someone who's anonymous. Do webhooks work both ways, i.e. from accessplanit to Salesforce and vice versa?
Oh, that's a good question. So not technically no, but you can have, if you had webhooks available in Salesforce, webhooks are all about looking for events within the hosting system, if you like. So within accessplanit, you're looking for events that are triggering in accessplanit, like a creation or an update or a delete, and then that's going to send that data wherever it needs to go. If webhooks are supported in Salesforce or HubSpot, if they have their own version of that, then yes, absolutely. You would then plug that into accessplanit's API feeds to create the data in accessplanit. So yes, but not through us, if that makes sense. Okay. Oh, good question from Paul. There's no authentication or headers in the webhook endpoint, which makes anyone can post the data to that URL. Another really, really good question. So there's no authentication. What Paul's essentially asking for there is within the webhooks, it would be good if we could have a way for you to provide the username or password or a token or some kind of way to authenticate access to the connecting API feeds or the connecting system. So that isn't available at the moment. What you would need to do is the data would send from your accessplanit platform to that endpoint, and the authentication would need to happen there to then pull the data into the connecting system. So hopefully that makes sense. But follow up with another question if you'd like any more information.
We've got another one about how to get access to webhooks, the API feeds, as I mentioned before, just on the test platforms right now. So just drop us an email on the customer success email, and one of the team will be able to get that access for you. That's not a problem. We have got a couple of other questions. So the first one is, do you need a developer to build a webhook?
You do. So as we've seen before, webhooks are available within the admin interface. So, as a super admin, you can get in there and you can configure the webhook. But similar to Paul's question, there is more to it than that. You will need a developer to then connect that kind of webhook endpoint right through to the connecting platform, manage that authentication that I talked about a moment ago. So you can tweak as an admin, but you can't create the entire process. You would need a dev for webhooks at some point. Oh, another one. Can I access historical data in the API version 2 feeds?
Simply yes. You can just filters of the request to include or exclude the historical data. With the new feeds, you've got those different filter options, so you can really hone in on what you want to pull through in those feeds. Makes it really custom to exactly what you need.
Good question.
Another one we've got coming is, how is the data transmitted by the API to keep it secure?
Oh yeah, this is a good question. So we manage access to the APIs through API permissions. So you need to not only have a certain level of access within the accessplanit platform, you additionally need the API role on top of that. So not just any admin can go using APIs, you need that extra bit. And then it's managed via tokens. So you can only access the data that's available to you, only if you have the API role and you know how to generate the token. So there's a few levels there. We talked about that. We've answered that question already.
Yeah. This one. Another one. So yeah, it's a good question. Is the data provided by the API v2 in real time?
Yes. Yeah. Real time. Yeah. So every API GET request you run will return real time data for that moment. Similar to Jack's question before about whether you can go back historically, you can change the date range on your request. So if you want to only get the last day's worth, and yeah, you can apply filters like that.
Awesome.
There's no more?
I don't think there's any more questions. We'll just give it a minute or two. But if there are no more questions, then we will wrap up today's webinar.
Yeah.
Yeah. So thank you everyone for taking the time to join our session today. We hope that you found it useful. If you'd like any more information or access to that test platform for the feeds, the email address is customsuccess@accessplanit.com, and one of the team will be able to help and pick that up for you. If you've got any other questions after the session today as well, please feel free to use that email address just to drop us a line, and we'll do our best to get back to you. And then otherwise, have a great rest of your day. Thank you for attending.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.